Welcome to this peaceful moment. Here, you will discover stories inspired by the quiet beauty of Japan. Each tale is like a soft breeze through a bamboo grove, carrying you away from the worries of the day. Imagine the scent of blooming cherry blossoms and the gentle flow of a nearby clear stream. Let these words and sounds cradle your mind in calm and serenity. Tonight, permit yourself to drift into a restful sleep. Let us begin this journey together. The garden sleeps in moonlight. Prologue: the silent radiance. The moon rose high above the village, silver and round, casting its pale glow upon the garden walls. Within those moss-lined stones and winding paths, the garden seemed to breathe, alive though untouched. The pond mirrored the heavens, its surface unbroken except for the slow drift of a koi beneath the lily pads. Lanterns stood unlit, unnecessary in the brilliance of the moon. The garden had long been silent. Its master had passed years ago, and though caretakers trimmed the hedges and swept the paths, few dared to linger there at night. They said that when the moon was full, the garden dreamed. And in dreams, the voices of those who had walked its paths before could be heard again. That night, a young scholar named Ren entered through the wooden gate, his sandals brushing against fallen pine needles. He had heard the stories from his late grandmother, who once tended this garden as a girl. She told him, "The garden sleeps, but it remembers. If you listen carefully under the moon, you may hear its breath." And so he came, lantern unlit, guided only by the silver light. Chapter 1: The Gate Beneath the Moon. Ren paused before the carved wooden gate, its panels aged yet sturdy. The crest of the garden's former master, a stylized crane, was still visible despite the weathering of years. As he touched the wood, a shiver ran through him. Inside, the air was cool, almost damp. The fragrance of moss and pine filled his lungs. The moonlight filtered through branches, tracing silver patterns across the stones. Ren followed the stepping stones toward the central pond. Each step seemed louder than it should have been, as though the silence amplified his every movement. He remembered his grandmother's words when the garden dreams, "Tread lightly. Do not disturb its slumber unless you mean to listen." At the pond's edge, he stopped. The water shimmered, reflecting the moon so perfectly it seemed as though he could step into another sky. And then, faintly, he heard it. Not wind, not water, something softer. A hum, like the exhalation of the garden itself. Chapter 2: Echoes of the Past. The hum deepened into whispers. Ren turned, half expecting someone to be there, but the garden remained empty. "Who walks here?" a voice asked, neither harsh nor kind, but curious. Ren steadied his breath. "I am Ren. My grandmother once tended this place. I've come to listen." The moonlight brightened, and the reflection in the pond rippled. A shape rose from the water, not entirely human, not entirely spirit, but something between. Cloaked in shimmering light, the figure seemed woven of moonbeams and mist. "The garden remembers your grandmother," it said. Her hands were gentle. Her heart, faithful. She left a part of herself here. Ren's chest tightened. She used to tell me this place was alive. I thought they were only stories. All stories are truths in disguise, the spirit replied. This garden is memory. Every stone, every leaf holds what was given to it. When the moon awakens, those who listen may walk among the dreams. Ren bowed deeply. Then teach me how to listen. Chapter 3 The Moonlit Pathways. The spirit beckoned, and Ren followed along the winding paths. As he walked, the garden shifted. Shadows lengthened, and the air shimmered like heat over stone. Where there had been stillness, there was now movement, figures drifting like echoes, people of long ago. He saw gardeners clipping branches, monks sweeping, and children chasing fireflies. Their forms were translucent, fragile as paper lanterns, yet their laughter carried clearly through the night. Ren's heart ached. These were lives long past, yet here they lingered, woven into the soil. The spirit spoke softly. Do you see? Time folds here. What was, what is, and what lingers all are threads of the same weave. To walk in the garden's moonlight is to walk in memory. Ren asked, and what of those who are forgotten? The spirit's glow dimmed slightly. Those who are forgotten fade. Their voices dissolve into silence. That is why your grandmother told you to remember. Without memory, even gardens die. Ren clenched his fists. Then I will remember. I will keep their voices alive. Chapter 4 The Garden's Secret Heart. At the far end of the path stood a stone lantern, its surface cracked but still upright. The spirit led Ren to it. This lantern is the heart of the garden, the spirit said. It holds the breath of all who have tended these grounds. Place your hand upon it, and you will feel them. Ren obeyed. The stone was cold at first, then warm, so warm it felt alive. A rush of voices surged into him. Laughter, songs, whispers, prayers. His grandmother's voice rang clear. Ren, do not forget. The garden is you, and you are the garden. Tears welled in his eyes. Grandmother. The spirit watched in silence, its presence calm, steady, patient. The moonlight above blazed brighter, bathing the entire garden in silver. For the first time, Ren understood. This was no ordinary place. It was a living archive, a sanctuary of memory bound by moonlight and devotion. Chapter 5 The Weight of Memory. Night deepened. The spirit guided Ren back toward the pond. You have heard, it said. Now you must choose. The garden sleeps, but it wakes only when remembered. If you carry its memory, it will endure. If you turn away, it will fade, like so many forgotten places. Ren stared into the pond, at his own reflection mingled with the moon's. If I choose to carry it, what must I do? Live with it. Speak of it. Pass it on. Tell the children of this village that the garden breathes. Bring them here, let them hear. Only then will the garden dream beyond this generation. Ren nodded, resolve strengthening in his chest. I will not let it fade. I promise. The spirit smiled faintly, its form dissolving into mist. Then the garden will remember you, as it remembered her. Chapter 6 Dawn's First Light. As dawn approached, the silver glow faded. The garden stilled, its figures of memory dissolving into shadows. By the time the first rays of sunlight touched the mossy stones, the spirit was gone. Only the garden remained quiet, ordinary, asleep once more. But Wren no longer saw it as ordinary. Every leaf shimmered with unseen life, every stone whispered with silent history. He bowed to the shrine, then to the pond, and left through the wooden gate, carrying the voices within him. From that day forward, Wren tended the garden. At first alone, then with children from the village, then with their children after them. He taught them the songs his grandmother sang, and under the moonlight they listened together. And always, the garden dreamed. Epilogue The eternal moonlight. Years passed, and the village changed. Houses grew, roads stretched, people came and went. But the garden endured, its paths still lit by moonlight, its pond still mirroring the sky. Wren grew old, his hair silver as the moon he loved. On his final night, he sat by the lantern at the garden's heart, his hand resting upon the stone. "Grandmother," he whispered, "I have remembered." And when the moon rose, the garden stirred once more. Its breath was steady, its dreams eternal. For as long as someone listened, the garden would never fade. The moon shone on, and the garden slept peaceful, radiant, alive in memory. Bamboo shadows at dusk. Prologue The whisper of the grove. At the edge of the mountain village, where the last houses thinned into fields and the fields dissolved into woodland, there stood a vast bamboo grove. In daylight, it seemed ordinary enough, its green stalks swaying gently in the wind, their rustling like rainfall. But at dusk, when the sun dipped low and shadows stretched long, the grove took on another life. Villagers told stories. They said the shadows of the bamboo moved in ways the wind alone could not explain, weaving patterns on the ground like characters from forgotten scripts. If you followed them, they would lead you deeper and deeper, until you vanished into the heart of the grove. Some said those who disappeared were not lost, but chosen, taken into a world that lived only between light and shadow. Most villagers avoided the grove at dusk. Yet one boy did not. His name was Akio, and he had grown up hearing the rustle of bamboo outside his window. To him, the whispers were not frightening. They were a call. Chapter 1 The Path of Fading Light. Akio walked the narrow trail into the bamboo grove as the last hues of orange faded from the sky. The tall stalks arched above him like the beams of a vast cathedral, their shadows striping the path in shifting bands. He had come here seeking something. His grandmother, who had passed away the previous spring, had often spoken of the grove. "Listen to the dusk," she told him, "and you may hear what the day forgets." Her words returned to him now as he paused, listening. The wind was light, but the bamboo swayed as if stirred by deeper currents. Shadows rippled across the ground. And then, faintly, he heard it a murmur, not unlike voices, though no one else was there. Akio stepped off the path, following the shifting lines of shadow. The deeper he went, the dimmer the light became, though the sky was not yet fully dark. It was as if the grove itself absorbed the sun, drinking in its last rays until only twilight remained. Chapter 2: The Meeting of Shadows. The whispers grew clearer. They seemed to weave around him, rising and falling like breath. "Who follows the dusk?" a voice asked. Akio stopped. His heart pounded, but his fear was edged with curiosity. "It's me. My name is Akio." The shadows stirred. From the crossing of two bamboo stalks, a figure stepped forth. It was neither fully man nor fully shadow, but something between, an outline shaped by dusk itself. Its face shifted with the dimming light, never fully clear. "You hear us," the figure said. "Few do. The bamboo carries memory, but only those who listen may walk within it." Akio bowed slightly, recalling his grandmother's lessons in respect. "Then teach me to listen." The shadow figure tilted its head, as though weighing him. "You carry her voice," it murmured. "The one who listened before you. She still lingers here." Akio's breath caught. "My grandmother? You know her?" "She is among the shadows, as all who truly listen become." Chapter 3: The Forest of Memory. The figure beckoned, and Akio followed. The bamboo grew denser, their stalks closer together, until the grove seemed endless. Shadows crisscrossed in layers, weaving patterns too complex for the eye to follow. As they walked, the shadows shifted, forming shapes, scenes, almost like painted scrolls come alive. He saw villagers from long ago, tending fields, building homes, laughing by firelight. All were made of dusk, their outlines trembling like candle flames. "This grove remembers," the figure explained. "Every voice, every step, every sorrow and joy left upon the land. The bamboo drinks them in. And at dusk, when day and night meet, it breathes them out again." Akio reached out, and his hand passed through one of the shadowed villagers. A warmth lingered on his skin, as though he had touched something alive. He whispered, "Grandmother, are you here?" For a moment, one shadow turned toward him. Her face was indistinct, yet the curve of her smile was unmistakable. Tears welled in his eyes. Chapter 4: The Lantern of Dusk. The shadow figure led Akio to a clearing where a single stone lantern stood, moss-grown and weathered with age. The grove around it was utterly still, as if waiting. "This lantern is the heart," the figure said. "Here the bamboo gathers the voices of dusk. Touch it, and you will hear them." Akio placed his hands on the cool stone. Instantly, whispers surged into him. Laughter, songs, prayers, sighs, all the unspoken words of the village across generations. And within them, clear and soft, was his grandmother's voice. "Akio," it said. "You came. You listened." His tears spilled freely. "I miss you, grandmother." Her voice lingered like the brush of wind through leaves. Do not mourn, child. Remember, the shadows are not silent but memory. Carry them forward, and I will never be gone. The whispers slowly faded, leaving only the hush of the bamboo. Chapter 5 Keeper of Shadows. The shadow figure regarded him quietly. Now you know. The dusk is not emptiness, but fullness of voices, of time, of memory. But memory must be kept. Will you bear it? Akio wiped his eyes, his heart steadying. Yes, I will remember. And I will teach others to listen. The figure nodded. Then the grove will live through you. And one day, when you two pass, your shadow will join us, and your voice will guide another. As the last words faded, the figure dissolved into the deepening dark, merging once more with the bamboo. Chapter 6 Nightfall's Return. By the time Akio found the path again, night had fully fallen. The moon rose, pale and distant, casting silver light upon the grove. The bamboo no longer whispered, it stood silent, as if sleeping after its long breath at dusk. Akio walked back toward the village, but he carried the grove within him. He carried his grandmother's voice, the laughter of unseen villagers, and the promise of the shadows. From that day onward, he often returned at dusk. Sometimes alone, sometimes with children who were bold enough to follow. He would tell them, "Listen. The bamboo remembers." And slowly, others began to hear. The grove did not fade into silence. It lived, its shadows stretching into each new dusk, its memory preserved. Epilogue Eternal Dusk. Years later, when Akio himself grew old, the villagers no longer feared the bamboo grove. They entered it with reverence, bringing lanterns at dusk to watch the shadows shift. Children laughed among the stalks, listening for whispers. On Akio's final evening, he walked once more to the lantern at the grove's heart. His hands pressed against the stone, warm and familiar. The whispers rose to greet him, and within them his grandmother's voice, steady and loving, "Welcome home, Akio." When dawn came, the villagers found him seated peacefully at the lantern, his eyes closed, his face serene. And though his body was gone, his shadow lingered. At dusk, if one listened carefully, one could hear a new voice among the bamboo, a gentle voice, guiding, remembering, and waiting. The grove, eternal in its breath, whispered on. Whispers of the falling snow. Prologue. The first flakes. The first snow of the season drifted silently over the mountain village. It came not with a storm, but with a hush, as though the world had paused to listen. The villagers drew close to their hearths, lanterns glowing behind paper screens, while the streets filled with a white stillness. In that stillness, there was a sound, not the crack of ice nor the rush of wind, but something softer. It was like a voice too faint to name, rising from the snow itself. Some dismissed it as imagination, others as a trick of memory. But for Aika, a girl of 16 winters, it was unmistakable. The snow was whispering. Her grandmother had once told her, "When the first snow falls, listen well." The past speaks to those who lend it their silence. Aika pressed her hands together and closed her eyes. Beneath the hush of winter, she thought she heard laughter, footsteps, and songs long gone. The snow was not just falling, it was remembering. Chapter 1: The Village in White. By morning, the village was buried in white. The old shrine on the hill wore a crown of snow upon its roof, and the river ran slow beneath a frozen skin. Children played, their shouts carrying across the crisp air, while elders watched with the calm patience of those who had seen many such winters. Aika walked the narrow path toward the shrine, her breath rising in pale clouds. She carried with her a lantern, though the sun still glowed weakly behind the clouds. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory. The shrine holds the snow's first breath. Go there, and you may hear it clearly. The steps up the hill were half buried, each footprint sinking deep. The air grew quieter the higher she climbed, until even the distant laughter of the children faded. Only the sound of snow shifting on branches remained. At the shrine gate, she paused. The wooden torii was rimmed with frost, and icicles hung like glass ornaments. She bowed, then entered, her lantern swinging gently in her hand. Inside, the snow seemed thicker, the world hushed beyond measure. And then she heard it again, the whispers, threading through the silence like strands of silver. Chapter 2: The Voices of Snow. The whispers swirled around her, rising and falling as if carried on invisible winds. Some were laughter, bright and fleeting, others were soft sighs, heavy with longing. Aika. Her name slipped through the air like a drifting flake. She spun around, heart pounding, but no one stood there. Only the snow was falling steadily from the gray sky. Again, the voice came familiar, tender. Aika. Her breath caught. It was her grandmother's voice. Grandmother? She whispered. The air trembled. She thought she saw a figure beyond the shrine's courtyard, half hidden in the drifting snow. A woman, stooped but strong, her outline blurred by the storm of flakes. Do not be afraid, the voice said. The snow carries what the heart cannot keep. Our laughter, our tears, our love, they fall, they rest, they return. Aika reached out, but her hand touched only cold air. The figure dissolved into whiteness. Chapter 3: The Keeper of Winter. As she stood shivering, another presence stirred. From the shadows of the shrine emerged a figure clad in robes the color of snow. His face was partly hidden beneath a hood, his steps leaving no trace on the ground. You hear them, he said, his voice deep as the mountains. Few do. Aika tightened her grip on her lantern. Who are you? A keeper, the man replied. The snow does not fall by chance. It carries memory, born on the breath of the world. My task is to tend it, to guard its whispers. Then my grandmother. She lingers, the keeper said. As all who are remembered linger. But snow is fleeting. To hold a whisper is to hold water in your hand. It melts unless cherished. Aika lowered her eyes. I want to keep her voice. I don't want it to fade. The keeper studied her, then gestured toward the forest beyond the shrine. then follow. Tonight, the snow will open its heart. Chapter 4: The Forest of Falling Light. The keeper led her through the snow-laden forest. The trees bent under their heavy crowns, branches creaking faintly in the stillness. The world glowed faintly in twilight, every flake catching the dim light of her lantern. They came to a clearing where the snow fell in spirals, as if stirred by unseen hands. In the center stood a frozen pond, its surface etched with delicate patterns like frost flowers. "This is where the whispers gather," the keeper said. "Step carefully, and listen." Aika knelt at the pond's edge, lantern light spilling across the ice. She closed her eyes. The whispers rose stronger than ever. She heard children singing old songs, farmers praying for harvest, lovers promising beneath the stars. And then, clear as a bell, her grandmother's voice. "Do not fear the passing of seasons, child. Each flake that falls carries us closer together. I am not gone. I am in the snow, in the silence, in you." Aika pressed her hands against the ice, tears mingling with melting flakes. "I'll remember. Always." The pond shimmered, and for a heartbeat, she felt warmth in the winter air. Chapter 5: The Weight of Memory. When she opened her eyes, the keeper stood beside her. "You have heard what many cannot. But know this: memory is both a gift and a burden. To hear the snow is to carry voices unending. Will you bear them?" Aika hesitated. The thought of carrying every whisper, every sorrow, frightened her. But then she remembered her grandmother's smile, the way her voice had wrapped around her like a blanket. "Yes," she said firmly. "If it means I can keep them alive, I will." The keeper nodded slowly. "Then the snow will walk with you. Wherever it falls, you will hear. Wherever silence lingers, you will know." And with that, his form began to dissolve, his robes unraveling into drifting flakes. In moments, he was gone, leaving only the hush of the forest. Chapter 6: Return to the Village. By the time Aika descended the hill, night had fallen. The village below glowed with lantern light, roofs heavy with white. She walked the familiar paths, but the world seemed transformed. Every flake that touched her skin carried a murmur, faint but alive. Children laughed nearby, throwing snow into the air, and in their laughter she heard echoes of voices long gone. She smiled through her tears. Inside her home, she placed the lantern by the window and whispered, "Grandmother, I'm listening." The snow outside thickened, falling gently, endlessly. And within it, the whispers answered. Epilogue: Eternal snowfall. Years passed. The seasons turned, yet Aika never lost the sound of the falling snow. She grew into a woman, then an elder, known in the village as one who remembered. Children gathered around her in winter to hear the stories she claimed the snow had told her. And when her own final winter came, the villagers saw her sitting by the shrine, a lantern beside her, snow falling quietly all around. They say that on still nights, when the first flakes drift down, a gentle voice joins the whispers of the snow. A woman's voice, calm and tender, guiding those who listen. And so the snow continues to fall, carrying the voices of past and present, whispering into eternity. Lanterns in the misty night. Prologue. The shrouded path. The mist rolled in from the river, thick and unyielding, swallowing the narrow stone path that wound its way between the village and the shrine in the hills. It was the kind of mist that blurred the line between reality and dream, muffling sound and dimming even the brightest light. Yet along that path, lanterns glowed. They were not ordinary lanterns, but tall, slender frames of wood and paper, painted with fading symbols that few still understood. Their glow was soft, golden, and steady, though no hand seemed to tend their flames. To the villagers, they were simply the night's guardians, always appearing when the mist thickened, always vanishing by dawn. Most people hurried past them, heads down, unwilling to meet the shifting shadows. But Auri, a boy of 17, stopped and listened. He had always felt something in the light, an unspoken promise, or perhaps a memory that was not his own. That night, when the mist was thicker than any in years, he lit his own small lantern and stepped onto the shrouded path. The village behind him disappeared within moments, leaving only silence, the damp chill of fog, and the mysterious glow of lanterns leading him deeper into the unknown. Chapter 1. The Flickering Guide. The path wound upward, lined by stone walls half hidden by moss. Auri walked slowly, his lantern trembling in his hand. The mist was so heavy that he could not see more than a few steps ahead. But every time he hesitated, another lantern would bloom into sight, its glow like a heartbeat in the dark. As he passed one lantern, he noticed something strange: shadows moving inside the paper walls. They were not the shadows of trees or mist, but of people, figures bowing, laughing, even dancing. He leaned closer, his breath fogging the air, but when he blinked, the shadows were gone. A soft voice broke the silence. "You're late." Auri froze. The voice was clear, just beyond the mist. He lifted his lantern, but the fog resisted, swallowing the light. "Who's there?" he called, his voice unsteady. From the white haze stepped a girl about his age, her hair dark and damp with mist. She carried no lantern, yet her face was illuminated as though lit from within. Her eyes, calm and steady, met his. "You followed the lights," she said. "That means you're ready." "Ready for what?" Auri asked. "To remember," she replied. Chapter 2. The Girl in the Mist. Her name was Seo. She spoke as though she had been waiting for him, though Auri swore he had never seen her before. She walked beside him with ease, as if the mist parted for her alone. "The lanterns," she explained, "are not just light. They are vessels. Each carries a memory, a fragment of a soul left behind. On misty nights, when the boundary thins, they shine to remind us of what has been lost." Auri frowned. "Souls? You mean the dead?" Seo nodded. "The ones who walked this path before us. Some were travelers, some villagers, some who never found their way home." The lanterns carry their whispers. Haven't you heard them? Auri thought of the shadows inside the paper walls. The laughter, the bowing figures. He shivered. Why show me this? He asked. Because the lanterns chose you, Seo said simply. You carry something forgotten. Something is waiting. Her words pressed against him like the fog dense, heavy, impossible to escape. Chapter 3 The Lantern's Memory. They came to a lantern taller than the rest, its frame cracked with age, its paper patched with care. The glow inside was brighter, pulsing as though alive. Touch it, Seo whispered. Auri hesitated, then raised his hand. The moment his fingers brushed the paper, warmth spread through him. His vision blurred, and the mist around him dissolved into another scene entirely. He stood on the same path, but years earlier. The stones were new, the shrine bell still gleaming. People moved past him, lanterns in their hands, voices rising in song. And then he saw her. His mother. Younger than he remembered, smiling as she carried a small child on her back himself, no more than a year old. The vision struck like a blow. His mother had died when he was 7, her face blurred in his memory. Yet here she was, alive, radiant, her voice mingling with the chorus. Tears stung his eyes. He reached for her, but the scene dissolved, leaving only mist and the faint glow of the lantern. You see? Seo's voice was soft. The lanterns hold what we thought was gone. But they do not show without reason. Auri clenched his fists. I want to see her again. Then you must keep walking. Chapter 4 The Keeper of the Mist. The lanterns led them higher until the air grew colder, the mist so dense it clung like cloth. Suddenly, a figure emerged, a tall man in robes the color of night, carrying a staff crowned with bells. His face was hidden, but his presence was commanding, like the mountain itself had taken form. Seo bowed. Keeper. The man's voice rumbled low. You bring another child to the path. He was chosen, Seo said. The keeper turned to Auri. Do you seek memory, or do you seek truth? Auri swallowed hard. What's the difference? Memory comforts. Truth binds. One fades with time. The other demands your life. Auri thought of his mother's smile, of the warmth that had filled him. I want both. The keeper's staff struck the ground, sending a low hum through the mist. Then you must follow the lanterns to their end. But beware, some memories burn too brightly. And once seen, they cannot be returned. Chapter 5 The Hidden Path. The lanterns guided them deeper, though the path no longer seemed familiar. The stones curved in ways Auri had never walked, the air thick with whispers. Each lantern they passed revealed fragments: a girl weeping at the river bank, an old man praying beneath the shrine's gate, children playing with wooden tops. None of them noticed Auri, yet he felt their lives brush against him, fleeting as snowflakes. Seo watched him carefully. The lanterns show not just your past, but the past of all who walked here. To carry these memories is to carry the village itself. But why me? Auri asked. "Because you still listen," she said. "Most turn away. You linger." At last, they reached the end of the path. A final lantern stood before them, its frame of blackened wood, its light flickering weakly as if dying. "This one," Seo whispered, "holds the memory you came for." Chapter 6: The Last Lantern. Auri approached the lantern. Its glow trembled, and for a moment, he feared it would extinguish. He pressed his hands against its paper, and the world dissolved. He stood in a house dimly lit by firelight. His mother sat on the floor, her hands clasping his small ones. She was sick, he remembered now, the fever that had taken her. But her eyes shone with love. "Promise me," she whispered to the boy he once was. "Promise me you will keep walking, no matter how heavy the mist, no matter how dark the path." The child nodded through tears. His mother smiled faintly, then closed her eyes. The fire dimmed, the house faded, and Auri was thrust back into the mist. He collapsed to his knees, sobbing. Seo touched his shoulder. "Now you understand. The lanterns do not show what we wish, but what we need." Auri wiped his face, standing shakily. "Then I'll carry her words. I'll keep walking." The final lantern flared once, then went dark. Epilogue. Lanterns eternal. By dawn, the mist lifted. The path was bare, the lanterns gone as though they had never existed. Yet Auri walked back to the village with steady steps, his own small lantern still glowing faintly. In the years that followed, villagers often saw him tending the shrine's steps, placing lanterns when the fog rolled in. Children whispered that he could speak with the mist, that he carried voices in his heart. And when the mist grew thickest, those who dared the path swore they saw him walking alongside a girl with dark hair, guiding the lost with lantern light. The lanterns still glow in the misty night. They whisper of memory, of promise, of love that lingers beyond time. And those who follow them learn, as Auri did, that the path of light leads not away from loss, but deeper into the heart of it where the forgotten wait to be remembered. The silent voice of the cedar grove. Prologue. The breath of the trees. At the northern edge of the village stood the cedar grove. Towering trunks rose like pillars of a forgotten temple, their crowns weaving a canopy so dense that sunlight entered only in fractured shards. Few dared enter at dusk, for the grove had a presence unlike any other place. The elders said the cedars whispered. Not with words, but with silence so deep it spoke to the soul. Children dared each other to step inside, laughing nervously at the chill that clung to the air, but most ran back after only a few steps. The ground was soft with fallen needles, muffling every sound, and shadows lay thick between the trees. To some, the grove was sacred. To others, cursed. For Aki, it was home. He had grown up on the edge of the grove, the cedar trunks the first thing he saw from his window every morning. He felt them breathing with the wind, watching with their stillness. While others avoided the forest, Aki walked its narrow paths, listening. And in the silence, He often felt something listening back. On the night the mist rolled in heavy from the mountains, and the air grew so still that even the insects hushed, Aki entered the grove with a lantern in hand. He did not yet know what awaited him, only that the silence had called. Chapter 1: The Lantern's Edge. The path into the cedar grove was narrow, its stones worn and half hidden by roots. Aki's lantern swung from his hand, casting a small circle of gold that barely reached the nearest trunks. The forest was vast, but soundless. No owls called, no branches creaked, only the faint rustle of his breath. Every step pressed into a silence that deepened rather than broke. He remembered what his grandmother once said. The cedars remember everything. They grow slowly, but never forget. Each ring in their heartwood carries the voice of what has passed. If you are quiet enough, you can hear them. He had laughed then, but now, with mist threading between the trunks, her words seemed less like a tale and more like a warning. Aki paused before one of the oldest trees. Its trunk was wider than a house, its bark furrowed like the wrinkles of an ancient face. Placing his hand against it, he closed his eyes. For a moment, just a moment, he heard something. A sigh, faint as wind over water. A voice that was not a voice, pressing into his chest rather than his ears. "Welcome." His eyes snapped open. The lantern flame wavered. The forest looked unchanged, yet Aki's heart pounded with the certainty that he had not imagined it. Chapter 2: The Girl in White. He walked deeper, guided by the flicker of his lantern and the pull of the unseen voice. The grove seemed endless, each trunk like a gatepost leading farther from the world he knew. Then he saw her. A figure stood among the cedars, dressed in white that shimmered faintly against the darkness. Her hair was long, her face pale, her eyes reflecting the lantern's glow. She was neither frightening nor comforting, but wholly other, as if she belonged more to the grove than to the human world. "You came," she said softly. Aki gripped his lantern tighter. "Who are you?" Her gaze did not waver. "I am what the cedars remember. I am the silence you hear." He stared at her, unsure whether to run or bow. "Why me?" "Because you listened," she replied. "Few do. Fewer still stay long enough to answer when we call." She stepped closer, and though the ground was covered in fallen needles, her feet made no sound. "There is something you must see," she whispered. "Something the grove has kept for too long." Chapter 3: Echoes in the Rings. She led him to a clearing where the cedars stood in a perfect circle, their crowns touching to form a dome. In the center lay a fallen trunk, massive and ancient, its heartwood exposed. "Look," she said. Aki lifted his lantern, and the rings of the tree glowed faintly as if catching firelight from within. He leaned closer, and the lines blurred into images. Villagers building shrines at the forest's edge. Children running between the trunks. A man kneeling, burying something in the soil. A woman in white robes singing to the trees. The images shifted, faster, a whirl of centuries condensed into wood. Aki staggered back, his head swimming. "What is this?" he gasped. "The memory of the grove," the girl said. "Every birth, every vow, every sorrow that touched these roots. The cedars carry them all. But some memories must not be lost, yours among them." "Mine?" Aki's breath caught. The girl's eyes softened. "The grove remembers your mother." The words struck him like a blow. His mother had vanished when he was 8, leaving no trace. The village whispered rumors of spirits, of accidents, of despair, but no one knew the truth. And now, here, the cedars claimed to remember. Chapter 4: The Vanished Song. The girl placed her hand on the trunk, and the rings flared once more. This time, the images were clearer, sharper. Aki saw his mother walking the same path he had, her lantern glowing in the mist. She entered the grove, her steps steady, her face calm. She reached the clearing, stood where Aki now stood, and sang. It was a lullaby Aki dimly recalled from childhood, a song she used to hum as he fell asleep. The melody echoed faintly in the grove, carried not by air but by memory itself. And then her figure faded into the mist, leaving only silence. Aki's throat tightened. Where did she go? What happened to her? The girl lowered her gaze. She gave herself to the grove. Her voice joined the silence, so that the trees might never forget the lives of those who walk here. "You mean she's gone?" His voice cracked. "She is not gone," the girl corrected. "She is here. In the breath of the cedars. In the silence, you hear." Aki dropped to his knees, overwhelmed by grief and wonder all at once. His mother's absence had always been a wound. To know she still lingered changed, but present was both comfort and ache. Chapter 5: The Keeper's Choice. The girl knelt beside him. The grove remembers. But memory fades if it is not renewed. That is why you were called. Aki looked up at her. "What do you mean?" "You can choose," she said. "To carry your mother's song beyond the grove, so her memory lives in the world, or to join her, and add your own voice to the silence." The weight of the choice pressed against him like the trunks surrounding the clearing. To remain meant leaving her behind again. To join meant abandoning the world, becoming part of something vast and eternal. He thought of the village, of his father who still searched for answers, of the children who dared each other at the grove's edge. He thought of the lullaby, half remembered, waiting to be sung again. At last, he stood. His voice was unsteady, but firm. "I will carry her song." The girl smiled faintly, and for the first time, sound stirred in the grove, the rustle of branches, the sigh of wind through needles, as though the trees themselves exhaled. "She will be proud," the girl whispered. "And so will we." Epilogue: The song beyond the silence. When dawn broke, the mist lifted from the cedar grove. Aki walked back to the village, lantern dim but heart steady. That night, for the first time in years, he hummed the lullaby his mother once sang. Children paused to listen, elders bowed their heads, and the tune carried softly through the streets. The grove remained silent, but Aki knew better now. Silence was not absence, it was memory too deep for words. And when the wind stirred the cedars, he heard her voice in their breath, whispering, watching, remembering. The silent voice of the cedar grove lived on, not only in the trees but in the song of her son, who chose to carry it into the world.